The graphs start to fall, and the alarm within your mind starts to ring at the highest volume that it can. Unfortunately, this volume was only audible to you but not other stockbrokers in the 1920s, as they had their own alarms to worry about. They started to panic and ran all around the room. Their eyes widen and open to their full capacities. The shouts into the phones and curses at the situation seem endless. The documents previously valued to the moon are now under their feet. Their lives, as they saw it, seemed to have come to a standstill. Allow us to introduce you to the days when the market took the steepest drop. The day when a lot of people started yelling at the top of their lungs in the persuasion of their clients. This is the day which we know in the present day as the Great Depression. Welcome back to another video on Binge History, where we will be speaking of the Great Depression and the kind of life in those days. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you turn on the post notifications and never miss out on anything we post. Now, let's binge history like we binge eating. The stock trading came to an end on the 24th of October, 1929. This was also the day when the stockbrokers realized the kind of instability they had been through. The future was uncertain, and the steps they could have taken started being limited. This was the day when they also realized the true risk involved in the profession in which they for years were involved. The pace at which they started handling documents started to hurt them mentally and physically. The profession had now turned more like physical labor, and the need to find stability was now a necessity. The truth behind the market was that even though the investors were looking forward to making purchases at the lower end and selling them at high rates, this aim never came true. The reason was that the higher values that all of them were looking for never came in real life. However, this was not the case for all people living in that era. A lot of people were safe, as they had sold their stocks the prior week as they heard about the upcoming fall in the prices. For them, these days were predictable, and they themselves had relied on such a prediction that was flying around the market for quite a while. As the market crashed, a lot of people were in search of some relaxation, something to divert their minds and a medium to ensure that the pressure did not take them. As the wine shops were told not to sell alcohol, the illegal consumption of alcohol started to rise. This meant that even though the market was down and the brokers were not really making many profits, the mafia, in control of selling the alcohol in black, gained a significant profit. This was a good time for them, as they started to make a lot of profit in a shorter period of time. This was not the only source of profits they made. They also made profits out of the money they used to loan out to people in need. This money also accrued their interest and, hence, formed another source of income. The mafia and others who were involved in selling alcohol in black make a good revenue through this source. So, as you see, there was a lot of pressure on the investors and others involved in the stock market. They started getting indebted as they took more loans, unable to repay the amount being taken by them. So, their desperation became an opportunity for those who were making profits out of the tough times. Now, this was something that was going on just in the life of the brokers. The Great Depression also had a great implication on the lives of many other people, perhaps each and every soul in the United States of America. The issues with the financial crisis started rising tremendously. However, what is more important is to analyze the source of such a crash in the American market. With a loss of more than 15 million jobs in the entire state and the failure of the banks throughout the country, it was important for them to figure out the real reason behind the fall in the prices. Now, let us look back about a decade and figure out what has been going on in the market. The decade before the Great Depression was considered to be the Roaring Twenties. The war became a major source of revenue for the entire country and was considered to be one of the major reasons for the boom during that time. As things started going well and a lot of businesses started to bloom, the people throughout the United States of America started to invest in the stock market. Now, keep in mind that the war had brought in a lot of money. This means that this money was now to be used up in one way or the other. All the people in the nation, irrespective of their professions, started to invest heavily in the market. There is a huge amount of money in the market, and this is where all of the issues started. The first industry to take a hit was the agricultural industry. This was then followed by the factory workers. The prices of food started to rise, and this led to a greater impact on the general public. While things were not so great, the government decided to not give a lot of regard to the complaints coming from the agricultural side. This led to the instigation of the issue. Now, one of the major additions and catalysts to all this was the manner in which banks were giving out loans. A lot of the loans were being given out by the banks, and, to make it even worse, there were no regulations coming in from the government that could regulate the loans being lent by the bank. This meant that the banks were completely in control, and they could lend money in any manner they wanted them to lend. The interest rates continued to skyrocket. However, people continued to take loans as the sources of money started to deplete. As the money in the economy increased, the stock prices started to climb up really fast. This was the point where the fall in prices could almost be confirmed. The manner in which the prices started to increase was turning the bank and the prices extremely unstable. The rampant increase in prices led to a lot of predictions stating the fall in the prices potentially coming. People started to pull out their money altogether, and hence the Great Depression took birth. The first indicator of this was Black Thursday, followed by the crash of the New York Stock Exchange. A lot of companies were relying on American sales. This affected the entire world in a very bad manner. As a matter of fact, the European government owed the United States a lot of money, as they had taken a lot of loans from the American government to rebuild after the war. Back when the Depression was going on, even manual labor was something that could rarely be found. Now, even if you could find a job, the amount of money that was being paid by them was too meager for them to earn a livelihood. Even though the government had enough jobs, they did not have the money to pay them for the work they were doing. This created an even bigger massacre for the people who were working and for the ones who were seeking a job with the government. Now, even if the government decided to feed the poor itself, it was not being able to do so as the agricultural industry was failing day by day. The banks were later forced to stop being greedy and provide public services to ensure the safety of the residents throughout the state. It looked like, despite the banks having the money, their greed was stopping them from being any more than observers in this fight against the economy. The battle to revive the economy was, therefore, very hard and was in no manner less than the battles fought in the war. The most insensitive part about this war was that this was the one where even the weakest and the eldest had to participate and fight for their life. A huge number of people started protesting outside the government building. However, it wasn't of much use, as the government itself, as we mentioned earlier, was helpless. The present situation of things is much different. With the government laying down strict rules and regulations, there is a definite way of things proceeding in the market. The world is more prepared for a fall of that nature, and how things will now be executed certainly will be much different. We hope you liked this video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel without any delays. Make sure you turn on the post notifications and also let us know in the comments section about your views on the Great Depression. Thank you for watching Binge History. Until the next time we meet, continue learning and stay healthy.